Hi guys, thank you all so much for coming to our shadowing session with Dr. Taylor. We're just gonna have a few seconds or a minute to wait for any other people who might be coming.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Hi guys, so thank you all so much for coming. We are pre-health shadowing if you didn't know, and we offer free shadowing opportunities online to everyone around the world. So we do have closed captions you could see. There should be a caption bar. There's like a button to press it. It should be on the bottom part of your Zoom screen. We do this to accommodate people, like in case you can't hear or you just didn't hear what the speaker just said. If you had any ideas on how we can make this more accessible, feel free to email us at this email right here. Also, please make sure to add our email to your email list because sometimes we do hear about people who don't get our emails because they go to spam. You could also sign up for our email list to get all our shadowing sessions as it comes. We do also have a lot of social media where you could contact us or you could see our local events or opportunities that we host. We do also have recruiting posts, as you see here, on our Instagram and LinkedIn. So feel free to add us on any of these platforms. Also, because our service is online, we have students from all around the world. So me personally, I'm from New York City. If you all could tell us in your chat where you guys are from, that would be great. Oh, that's so cool. I see so many people from California, France, Philadelphia. Oh, Canada too. Wisconsin. Oh, New York City as well. Oh, India. Wow, that's really amazing. Also, if you're interested in becoming a part of pre-health shadowing, you can register on our website. All our volunteer opportunities are 100% remote, which is really nice because it's really accessible. You could volunteer from anywhere. We have asynchronous and synchronous opportunities as well. And we're also hiring, if you want to join our leadership team, it's also 100% remote. We have roles such as IT, grants, fundraising. If you feel like you have any skills or anything you can contribute, like your time, feel free to apply here. If you have any like specific skills or roles that you feel like you can help with that aren't listed here, you can always feel free to email us or contact us with with your skills, and we can see if we can make up a role for you, for example. And if you're a high school student, we also have a high school training program where we offer educational and leadership opportunities. Basically, you can start a club at your high school, and it's a really great learning opportunity. You would be directly affiliated with us as well. And if you can, please donate because our this program is 100% remote, 100% free, and we rely, like our Zoom, our subscription, our website, we all rely on donations, and everyone here is a volunteer. So if you want us to stay running, you can donate here. Okay, also, lastly, if you have any questions at any time, you can feel free to type in the chat or ask us in the end. Normally, how our sessions work is that our professional, Dr. Taylor, talks about how his life works, how his career works, and then you could ask questions at the end. And make sure to take good notes because there will be an assessment to make sure that you're listening. It's not very hard. It's just to make sure that you're here. And this is the way to get your shadowing certificate. And if you can, please turn on your cameras. It makes it feel a lot better talking to people rather than just the letter on your Zoom page, for example. And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Taylor.
Hello, can you all hear me? All right. Okay, well, listen, I'm very honored to have the opportunity to talk to so many people. Didn't know how many people are going to show up, and I'm actually impressed. It's like three screens full of people. I see Catherine, I see Jack, Giselle on screen three, Deanna Yang. I see some other people on screen two, Francis, Catherine, Sophia, and obviously I see the folks on the front page with the screens on. Juan, Vincent, Riza, Luca, Nathaniel. So, and everybody else. So thanks for having me. And hopefully I'll say something to you all that will motivate you to help me change the world. Okay. Because that's ultimately, I think, what some of this is about. Uh, so, I'm really user friendly these days. So, I mean, you're welcome to kind of ask me questions. I don't have a PowerPoint uh, to do what I do, at least for this presentation. So, you're welcome to ask questions. You can put them in a chat or you can raise your hand, all that kind of stuff. Okay, it's all good, no stress. So, what I do want to do though, okay, is uh, if you have any specific questions that you want me to weave into my presentation, you can ask me those now and I can jot those down and we can try to weave that into the conversation. If not, you can wait to the end or however you want to do it, okay? But it's all good. So while you all think about that, I'll I guess I'll start. I mean, the host, I guess, Vincent, do you have anything you want to say or you want me to start off with, or because I'm just
Just
following
go
you?
ahead.
Just go ahead.
Okay.
Freestyle. Okie dokie. All right. Well, so again, my name is Greg. I'm from Los Angeles. My parents are from Los Angeles. My grandparents are from Louisiana and Arkansas. On a genetic side, my mom's genetic lineage is Nigerian Yoruba, and my dad's uh, genetic lineage is Gabon. So I recently did that to kind of make sure I bring all this back home so that I can understand my roots, so I can move that forward into something more positive because there's so much hate and anger in the world. We need to be stabilized. So it's important to understand where you're coming from so you know where you're going. So anyhow, you know, I've done a couple of things and been blessed to have the opportunity to do a couple of things in my life. So I'll kind of just go through a little bit of a timeline. Again, if it's boring, just let me know. But again, you can stop me at any time. Uh, so again, my mom was in public health, okay, and my dad was a minister, okay. So I kind of got a little bit of different experiences, right? So I got the science side from my mom in public health. She was a public health inspector out here in LA County. She was actually the first female black health inspector in Los Angeles, as a matter of fact. And that's not too long ago, folks. My mom had me when she was 21 and my dad was 23. So they were kind of young, kind of parents, right? Um, I have a brother, he's 2 years younger than me. I have a sister. She's Oh, they changed the view, homie. My sister is about 8, 9 years younger than me. Let me change this view for me. Okay, I don't need to see my head that big. Okay. All right. Um, it threw me off for a second, man, but I bounced back. Uh, so so again, being a child of a minister, my dad kind of moved around a bit. I started in LA, like I said. He went to seminary. Uh,
Angelica keeps asking me about the CCTV waiver. She said if you know if any of them are called.
was that for me? No. Okay. All right. So he went to seminary in Salem, Massachusetts. So that was one of the first big times I left Los Angeles to go to Boston. It's the first time I saw snow. So that was a kind of big change in my life temporarily. Ended up moving back to Los Angeles, finishing up some junior high, and then my dad started a church, okay, in Georgia,
You
right?
want to go outside?
So we went to Georgia to, he started a church. So again, I'm bringing this up for I moved around a bunch as a young person, okay? And moving around, I had to kind of adapt to meet new friends, right? So I became really, really good at meeting people just out of survival skills. Um, so ended up finishing up high school, and we can talk about all other reasons in another conversation, but I ended up leaving Los Angeles at the end of 10th grade, and I went to Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland. So I don't know if you all kind of know about Maryland, Silver Spring. I finished up high school there, great opportunity. And that was about the time where it's like Rodney King kind of stuff was going on. I don't know if you know who that person is, but there was a lot of kind of racial injustice back in Los Angeles during that time. And then at that time, I really wanted to go to a African American school for college, right? My parents didn't go to any of those kind of black schools or whatnot. My mom went to UC San Diego. My dad went to University of Washington, Seattle. So, but my uncle went to Morehouse in undergrad in Georgia, in Atlanta. So I ended up going there for undergrad. And ultimately I ended up majoring in international studies. Okay, so I was an international studies major in undergrad. And then close to my final year in undergrad, I ended up studying abroad and went to Shanghai, China. So I went to Shanghai for a semester, but I ended up staying there another 2 years after I finished up college. So I worked for a study abroad program for Pitzer College. I don't know, maybe some of you California people or Southern California people know about Pitzer College. It's one of the colleges out here. Anyway, they're really big on study abroad. So I ended up, like I said, spending 2.5 years right out of undergrad in Shanghai, which is perhaps one of the best experience I could have had, in terms of me maturing as an individual. Again, that's a whole nother conversation, but I had a great time. Uh, and uh, and somebody put in, did I feel homesick? So, and again, having an opportunity to be alone, even though I wasn't alone, there was billions of people out there, but being alone to kind of figure out who I was and really to have an opportunity to reflect on who I was as an African here in America going to another country. Because that was really what was going on, right? When I went out there, people would ask me where I was from, and I would say, yeah, I was from America, but they weren't really asking me, was I from America? Not, they were like, where are you really from, right? Because, it's only white people in America, right? You don't like playing basketball, that's for sure. So, again, I had to reflect on kind of who I was from a global perspective. Okay. Um, one of the beautiful things and one of the early learning experience I had in Shanghai, because I don't know what you all know about China. I mean, some of you all probably know a lot more than I do, but there's a lot of students out there from all over the world studying in China. Okay, don't get it twisted. Okay, so and there was a lot of people from various African countries out there, amongst all the other countries. Okay, here's the point though. I met a couple of folks, and one of the guys, I still remember this to this day. This is kind of when I first got there because I didn't really speak any Chinese. It wasn't a prerequisite to go to China to speak Chinese, right? So I ended up learning it, but it wasn't a prerequisite. So when I first got there, like I said, I was trying to figure it all out. Again, I was a student at first, and then again, I graduated, and then I ended up working for the program. But when I was a student, I met this dude, and I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" I don't know if he was, I forget what country he was from, but he was from one of the African countries. Again, it's a long time ago. But here's the point. Here's the learning point. I was like, "So what are you doing out here?" Right? He was like, "I'm in medical school." I said, "What? You in medical school in China?" He was like, "Yeah, bro. I'm in medical school." I was like, "Well, how long you been learning Chinese?" Right? Because again, this what he wasn't in medical school speaking English, folks. He was in Chinese medical school speaking Chinese. So I was like, "Oh, how long you been learning Chinese?" I just gotten there. He was like, "Man, I've been only studying Chinese for 6 months, man. Then I went to med school. I said, what? You gotta be kidding me. He's like, yeah, man, that's how it works, man. Like, because he'd already spoke like 3 or 4 languages back home. He said he came here and started learning Chinese in 6 months, went to med school. So I was like, man, I got to get my act together, man. This is what people are doing. Like, what you gonna do, G? Like, this guy is in medical. Listen, so I was that kind of recharged me to say, listen, man, you've got to hang out with people doing things better than you, not these other folks who are, mediocre kind of folks. You got to hang out with these people who are really doing something. And I was like, I need to show and improve, right? Because I was thinking how hard it is, man. I was like, you go to medical school, man? Are you kidding me? Like, so anyhow, so that was a really positive impression that I had, and that really kind of motivated me to do better, to do more. Not that I was slacking, but I was like, look, if you can learn it and go to medical school, then I'm gonna learn this stuff too, man, right? So I really remember that. I wanted to share that with you because it's really important that you surround yourselves again by people who are really smarter than you, who are doing better things, who want to motivate you to do more. Okay, if you're the smartest one out of your friends all the time, you need to find more friends personally. Okay, all right. So again, so I ended up staying out there 2.5 years, learned Chinese. I was a program assistant for the program through Pitzer College, the one I started on as a student. Again, 2.5 years, had a great time, learned a lot of memorable opportunities. And then anyway, so I still wanted to be a doctor, right? They wanted me to stay out there longer. I was having so much fun, right? So I was like, look, man, I got to go to med school, man. If I stay out here any longer, I'm never going to leave, man. I got to focus, right? So I came back to America. And because, again, I was international studies major, I had to take some more science classes to kind of get my stuff organized. So I ended up doing a post-bac program back here at UCSD, UC San Diego, did that for a year. And then I ended up, going to med school. So I went to med school in DC, Howard University, great school. I was doing the med school thing. Again, there's a lot of experience in med school. That's a whole nother conversation, but maybe we'll loop that back in. And then because I'd already spoke, so now I'm 2 languages in, right? I learned Chinese, right? I'm already speaking English, right? So again, being from California, I was like, listen, man, I need to learn Spanish too, right? Like, I'm from LA, man. You can't get the street credibility in LA. You don't speak no Spanish, man. What do you think this is, right? Because I've already figured I was a global citizen because I, speak Chinese, right? So I was like, okay. So I took against the advice of my advisors because, medicine is still a conservative field overall, right? And we can talk about all that. But, they were like, listen, man, you just need to apply, go to med school and stop goofing around. This is this is after I got into med school. My advisor said you need to stop goofing around and apply to residency. That's what it was, okay? Because there's a match in residency. So I was like, well, I need to do it my way. I've already kind of deviated off the straight and narrow. So this is my journey. This is my life. Just like this is your journey. This is your life, right? Your advisors are going to have their 2 cents. Your parents are going to have their 2 cents. But ultimately, this is your journey, right? You've got to answer and you got to wake up with the decisions you make, not the decisions people want you to make. Okay, they've already had their opportunity, right, so to speak. So anyhow, what I did, to be honest with you, so the 4th year of med school, actually at Howard University, we had an international student exchange program for medical students. Okay, and that was one of the beautiful things at Howard. So we actually had an exchange students between like our medical school and a medical school in Germany, our medical school in Greece, and we would exchange students. So I happened to get chosen through the grace of God to go to Germany to study telemedicine in medical school for a month. Okay, and I don't know if you know this, but the Europeans are really a lot more advanced, at least they were in telemedicine because all those countries are close together, right? They got interchange languages and it's obviously not smaller. So they were doing a lot of stuff with telemedicine. And so I learned about telemedicine in Germany. And the funny thing was, while I was in Germany, I ended up meeting a woman, whatnot. She's a student. And like 9 years later, we're going to get married. But it was from that opportunity in Germany for a month that our paths connected. So again, you don't really know what's going on. You got to be open to stuff, right? If I never went, I met her and all this other kind of stuff, and we can kind of get into that later. But it's all about calculated risk, right? That was where I needed to be at that time, right? And then all the stuff that comes later was during those moments, right? So anyway, I did the Germany thing, had a great time, partying out there in Germany, learning about telemedicine, going to Amsterdam. We were doing it all, going on the Autobahn, racing cars. It was insane. Driving 100 miles per hour on the Autobahn. And, this is right out of med school. I mean, we was in med school still. So it was just an awesome opportunity, me and my boy. He was in med school too. He ended up going to psychiatry. So we did that. Long story short, so I'm finishing up med school, and usually at the med school, right, you apply to residency. That's just a normal track, right? So, I was already kind of crazy at that point. I didn't really care, but I wanted to go learn Spanish. So what I did was, even though I was applying to the match, I called some of the programs that I really wanted to be a part of, as a resident, in terms of where I wanted to residency at. And I asked them, well, if I apply to the match and I do match there, can I take a year off, defer my admission to go abroad to study a language? And they were like, no, you can't do that. It's a legal contract. Once you to the match and you accept it, you got to go. So I didn't apply to the match. Again, I took that risk, calculated risk, right? And I went to Spain, right? So I went to Spain for a year, okay? I enrolled in a language institute. It's called Don Quixote. Again, everybody else except for the Americans, right? A lot of these students aren't going straight to work. They ain't going straight to school. They they call these gap years, whatever they call them, right? All over the world. So I met a lot of people who were taking years off out of high school. Like that's a lot of people do in these world, right? They don't from high school, they don't go straight to college, right? They take a year off, go figure themselves out, then go to college, right? So, so anyway, I took that year off, went to Spain. I was in Madrid for a half a year. And then I ended up spending the other half a year off the coast of Africa in Canary Islands on Tenerife. Now, even though they're Spanish colonies, we all know if you're off the coast of Africa, it's in Africa, okay? So don't get it fooled. But anyway, Spain colonized them, and it's called Canary Islands, and I was on Tenerife. Tenerife, they got this volcano on Tenerife. So if you haven't visited there, you should go, okay? This is just a sidebar. Look, they have black sand on this island, Tenerife. It's a volcanic mountain, okay? And the difference between, and I know you all know this because you all look smart, the difference between the regular beach sand and the black volcanic sand is that when the sun goes down, the sand is still hot. Hallelujah. On the black sand. So you can have the sand is still warm and the sun is down and because it absorbs all the heat. Beautiful. Okay. And you can see the mountain with the snow on top laying on the beach in Tenerife. So you should go. So anyway, I did that, learned Spanish, and then in between, because again, I'm still trying to, go on a residency now, still keep my mind focused. In between Madrid and Tenerife, I came back to America to interview for residency. Okay, because I was still in the game, right? You know what I'm saying? The good thing about Don Quixote, you can look it up too, is that you can learn Spanish anywhere in the world where they have these institutes. You just pick up and go to the other program, right? So it's something to think about. Again, I know the world is crazy, but that's just how it is, right? No risk, no reward. Okay. So I did that anyway, and that was another great opportunity. So that was 3 languages in. So I was really crazy at that point. Like, now you can't tell me nothing, right? I did that. Then I came back home to USC for residency, right? So now I'm back at home in LA, right? I'm speaking Spanish, got the Chinese thing going, right? Doing the English thing. And I did internal medicine, FYI. Okay. So internal medicine, and there's a whole long story why I ended up doing that, but internal medicine. And then, I was really interested in kind of older people, older populations, because I love my grandmother, all that kind of stuff. So I ended up going to Baltimore, to Hopkins, and doing my fellowship at Johns Hopkins for geriatric medicine. Okay. Again, the gap year thing that somebody just brought up, it was just 1 year. It was 2 years in China, 2.5 years in China, and 1 year in Spain. So that's 3.5 years. So I'm kind of like 3.5 years older than the majority of the cohort. I was going to medical school or in residency and all that stuff, right? And that's fine too, right? It's all good, And that served me well because again, if you all decide to become a doctor, listen, people want to come to you and talk about medical stuff, but as a concierge doctor now, we can get into all that. People don't want to talk about healthcare all day. They want to talk about what it means to be a human being. Like, what do you do? What did you do today? Right? How you feel about this? Right? What's going on in the world? They just want to talk, right? And it's got nothing to do with their healthcare. So if you can't talk, then you kind of losing the human touch, right? People can't really believe and trust and follow you if all you talking is science and the nuts and bolts. They don't want to hear that, right? They want to know, can they trust you? Do you seem like a reasonable person? Should they put their life in your hand, right? So that served me well to be able to talk about that. And on top of that, people, Tyler, Haley, Kieran, all that, I became more self-aware, right? Who am I? Right? So when the world is telling you you ain't nothing, when the world is telling you your hair is too short, when the hair is telling you your skin's too dark, or the hair is telling you your lips are too small, or your eyes are too curved, you don't care about that. Okay? Because you know who you are. That's important, right? Because the world is trying to take your self-esteem. They're experts at that, right? You don't look right. Your leg too short. You can't think as fast as everybody else. Those are lies. Okay? So I knew who I was at that point. So they couldn't really stop me. Okay, and they can't stop me now unless they kind of take me out because I know the truth. You see, I know who I am. I know the historical perspective, right? So it doesn't matter all these bells and whistles and smoke screens, right? And people try to downplay me, tell me I'm not this, and we can get into what the people try to stop me, but they can't stop me. That's where I am where I am now, right? And it's not because of me, because I'm the best guy. It's because I had a spiritual base, right? And I took the time to develop these skill sets and meet other people. Right? I'm really good at being around other people now, right? I don't need everybody to like me. That's for sure, right? But I'm really comfortable with who I am. And people can see that, and that bodes well because it's hard to get through life alone. Okay? It's hard to get through medicine alone. Okay? What do you do when you're alone and your patient dies and they're depending on you? Right? So that is part of your maturity as an individual. So anyway, all right. So I stopped it. I did the Baltimore Johns Hopkins thing, which was a great opportunity to go to Baltimore, right? The top of the food chain, #1, and all this other kind of stuff, right? So I went to fellowship during the day, but at night I worked at the jail. Listen, I don't know if y'all know about jail, okay? But I used to moonlight in the jail in Baltimore. Now, there's a difference between a prison and a jail. They didn't want me to work in the prison because I was a new doctor. Okay. Don't forget in Baltimore, Giselle and Thomas, they've got the Supermax. The Supermax is where the worst of the worst go. They're like, you ain't going there either. You're just going to go to the regular jail, the detention center. So I went to Baltimore City Detention Center. Let me back up. The reason I even know about prison medicine, okay, is because at SC, we've got a jail ward in the hospital. The prisoners the prisoners need healthcare too now. Okay, we can talk about all that, right? But we got a jail ward. So everybody on this floor is in jail or in prison. Well, they got to come get healthcare. So we dealt with that at LA County, which is a sale point for LA County. You can deal with that population, which is important to know what's going on. Okay. All right. So I worked in the jail at night. So I was, dealing with the bourgeois during the day and dealing with the quote unquote, prisoners at night. Right. And again, people in jail, correctional medicine, they're not all going to prison. Some of them are going to get released. It's just a holding place. That's what the jail is, right? You're either going to go home or you're going to go to prison. All right. So that was an awesome opportunity to see kind of that side of the world. And we could talk about that later, but that was an emotional, moving thing to me to be in the jail and walk and to help provide care to those people. And back at that time, they called me Dr. Kanye. This is before Kanye became Kanye. This is like way back in the day, right? But that's who they thought I was because they never seen a young black doctor in the jail. Listen, man, they didn't know what was going on. And they all were black like me, unfortunately. Most of them in Baltimore. Okay, so I was coming to jail, having them healthcare. I had a chronic care clinic in jail. It was crazy, okay? So anyway, I did that, making side money because I was obviously hustling, right? Trying to, make things happen because I was never a lazy kind of person. I was always highly motivated. So you can moonlight when you become a medical student, right? It's just extra way to get capital and to see opportunities and stuff like that. So I finished up Baltimore, did the fellowship. And then, I had to kind of get a job at that point, right? It's time to work. I was still single, okay, at this point, so I was a single black doctor, single doctor, single male doctor, living the dream, right? But I was like, listen, if I don't get married soon, man, I'm going to go crazy. because I was starting to self-destruct because I was partying, I was doing all kind of stuff. I had money, right? That's what people do, right? I was working, I was having fun. I was like, man, you need to have a family, man. You need to get your stuff together, man. You know what I'm saying? You wilding out, man. Focus, Greg, focus, right? So so I started my first job. I had a girlfriend there. Started my first job. I did hospital medicine. Okay, so I did hospital medicine in because I was dating this girl. She was actually going to residency at Emory. So I moved to Georgia. I started my first job, and I was doing hospital medicine. Okay, that didn't work out. The relationship. 2 years later into that job, I was like, listen, it's time for me to kind of focus. I want to have a family. Okay. Now I'm talking to the men now. I didn't say I wanted a wife initially. I said I wanted to have a family, but I wanted to have a wife to have a family. Okay. So that's just how I was thinking as a man. Okay. I wanted to have a family. It'd be a good idea to get married to do all that. Okay. All right. So long story short, like I said, that girl I had met in Germany 9 years ago, like, we kind of kept in contact through those years. She was dating other people. I was dating other people. Right. And we ended up kind of talking, and we ended up kind of getting married and getting pregnant at the same time. Right. That's around the time I started my first business. Okay. Don't forget now, I'm still first job, quote unquote, as a full-time physician, hospital medicine in Georgia. So I started a business, my first business with business partner who was in LA. We're pregnant now. She's not from America. Okay. My parents obviously from here. So we moved back to LA to be with my family, to also be with my business partner. And that's when I joined the faculty here at USC. That was 13 years ago. Okay. So I remember that because my daughter's 13, right? So 13 years ago, joined the faculty here. We had my daughter, and I was started again doing hospital medicine here at USC, right? Again, these relationships, right? I went here for residency. They knew me. They liked me, right? So it's easy to come back. Again, weaving in these relationships that you all are going to be building. You never know when these folks may come back in handy. So try not to piss too many people off. I'm not telling you to be a butt kisser, because I definitely don't want you doing that. But you need to kind of be a reasonable person sometimes. And these relationships come in handy. Okay. It's hard, again, to navigate the world without having some type of friendships, some relationships. So try to be friendly. Okay. All right. Okay, but you can't be friendly all the time. Okay, maybe we'll talk about that, Crystal. Okay, how you can't be friendly all the time. Sometimes you gotta let people know what the business is so they respect you, because everybody don't respect you being nice all the time. We could talk about that. Okay, anyway. So all right. So 2 years, had the baby. I was living in an apartment. Okay, my wife said she didn't want to work. She was working when I met her, but she said she didn't want to work. Okay, I was like, okay, fine. You gotta do. You don't want to do that, right? Okay. So I'm in LA in an apartment, doing the doctor thing, and then 2 years into the relationship, my daughter's 2. She was like, I want a house. She didn't want to live in an apartment no more. It's like, okay, well, let's get a house then, right? So my cash flow, like, I'm not a rich man. My parents aren't independently wealthy. So I had to figure out how I was gonna, like, get the money to get the house, right? And my job at that point, I didn't take the job at SC because it was paying me all the money. I took the job at SC because I had a lot of residents doing all the work, and it was free time for me to run my own business. You see what I'm saying? So that was the strategy behind it. So when she said the house thing, I was like, I got to get some more money, right? So and so I bring this part up is because the way I was able to get more money was, again, using a couple of tactics that I want you all to learn, because it may bode well in your future career. So listen, I told these people here at SC, my supervisor, I was like, listen, man, I need to get another job. I need to get this house. My wife wants to get the house, right? And they were like, okay, we got you. You know what I'm saying? We got you, Loyal. We're going to hook it up, G. Luca, we're going to hook it up. And so week 1 went by. Week 2 went by, Kesley. About week 3 goes by, Juan. And you know what my wife is saying, Haviland? Where's the house? Where's the job? Right? What's going on, Marie? What's going on, Francis? Where is the house? I was like, they're going to hook it up. That's what they told me. Listen, I don't know if y'all are married or not, but you don't want anybody in your ear all day long, okay? So weeks would go by, right? And then they would keep saying, it's going to be all good. We got you, G. My wife was like, what's going on? Like, you ain't got nothing. Why are you listening to them? So here's the point, folks. So then I had to go. I went back to my supervisor, Crystal. I was like, listen, bro, Victoria, I was like, do you want me to get divorced? Okay, like because she's getting on my nerves, right? She's angry all the time. She's mad at me. Do you want me to get divorced? Now they were like, "Oh no, we don't want you to get divorced. Don't worry, we got you." Another, we got you. I was like, "You got me? It's okay, so fine." So I go back home, my wife's still in my ear, and I was like, listen, I'm not taking this shit no more. Okay. So then listen, I go to UCLA because I knew them, because I did some summer research at UCLA. And I said, listen, man, because again, I was geriatric medicine. They all knew me, right? It's only a small group of us. And I did good work, right? They said, okay, we got you, G. We're going to give you a job. Listen, I got a job at UCLA. Listen, they hooked me up with the job. They were like, let's go. We're going to make you the guy. You're going to be the dude. And so I got the contract, right? Listen, so I go back to these jokers at SC with the contract, and 3 days later, they gave me a new job. With all the money I asked, 3 days later, I was like, why I have to act like this? Why I gotta do all this? Why you treat me like this? Right? Why I gotta get another job to come back for you to 3 days later give me everything I wanted? So my point is sometimes you gotta be an advocate for yourself. You see what I'm saying? People will say all kind of stuff, Umi. Oh, we got you here. We're gonna do this for you. Nah, you ain't doing nothing. You gotta take it into your own hands. It was only until I did that that everybody fell in line. 3 days later, folks. It was months they were talking about, we got you. We're gonna do this. They weren't doing nothing. Anyway, so I got that job, and that again taught me the landscape. You know, it's the Serengeti out here. Some people are living, some people are dying. Which you gonna live or you gonna die? So, and again, they like me. They didn't want to leave me, but I had to take things into my own hands. Okay, so that's I think a learning point in itself. So I got the new job. I got a promotion. So I went from the doing hospital medicine, Luca, to the outpatient. So now I'm in the outpatient setting, right? In the clinic. Like these people are not sick. I mean, I don't even know how to say that. Miss Amana. So I'm in the clinic now. That gave me, I'm the medical director now. Now I'm the medical director of our private practice in LA, right by the Staples Center, where the Lakers and the Clippers, all those people, the Kings, all those people play. And I got my own clinic now. So I'm shaking and baking. It's interdisciplinary clinic. We got ophthalmology there. We got neurology there. We got GYN. We got everybody there. ENT. I'm internal medicine, right? Shaking and baking. So, again, the spiritual world blessed me. We did really well at that clinic. We had started with 5 or 6 doctors, seeing about 20 people a week. We built that up over the course of 5 years to 20 doctors and thousands of people. But here's the point, Marie. At year 3 of doing that job, I got burnt out and had a midlife crisis. Wow, how's that possible? So here's the deal, Crystal. Let me pick on somebody else. There's only a couple of you all on the camera, but I pick on some other people not on the camera, and that's fine too. Julia. So what happened is that while I was taking care of the people at, doing the private practice, what we also had at USC was an executive health program. Okay. So we had an executive health program that we would see all these executives in LA. So PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, McKinsey, Accenture, L'Oreal, Disney, Nike, all those people, right? All these executives, they would go through the program. Now, I was not the medical director of the program. I was the medical director of the facility, but I saw only 80% of the executives. So listen, so I'm talking to these jokers. Most of them were accountants, right? And I was like, so what do you do, right? Oh, I'm an accountant. I was like, well, okay, it's are you busy? They're like, yeah, we're busy the 3 months out the year. I said, 3 months out the year? Like, yeah, that's the busy season. I was like, what do you do after that? Oh, we kind of just chilling. And so I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, right? So then, again, I was taking care of the low executives, but I was also taking care of the partners. Okay, so I saw all of them during that time, right? During, I guess that was 2014 to 2019. Okay, I was taking care of them. And then one of the young partners at PwC, so I don't know if you know these terms, PwC is an accounting firm. It's a big accounting firm, global, all this kind of stuff. So one of the young accountants, because again, I'm a pretty talkative person, I was talking to him, and I was like, so listen, man, he's like, I'm about to be a partner, Dr. Taylor. I was like, okay, well, how much you about to get paid, man? He was like, yo, I'm about to make $1 million pretty soon. I said, what? You about to do what? He was like, yeah, man, that's the partner track, bro. We're gonna scale up my salary to get $1 million. That's how it works. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, man. So then I started going a spiral. Not that I need $1 million. I was like, I can't believe this. Man, I'm bustling, hustling. I got 2,000 patients. I got, somebody fall out. I got to run to them and kind of figure that out. I'm staying here at the clinic at night. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got the 2 kids because I had my son at that point, right? You know what I'm saying? I was capped at a certain amount of money. I was like, man, this is BS, man. This is for the birds. That was a great job. But again, I'm a highly motivated person. It wasn't enough. And some of you are like that too, right? You're not satisfied with the okie doke, although you're all going to be successful. Be the doctor. It don't matter what kind of doctor. That's a great job. But some of you all are like really, really crazy. Like, that's not enough. You want to do more. It's too easy. Okay? So I was like, man, this is ridiculous, man. I need help. So that's when I had the midlife crisis. I talked to a bunch of my mentors, and they were like, listen, G, I mean, if you're going to leave, which is fine, you should at least get an MBA. You're at the university, right? They give out MBAs. If you want to kind of change your life around, at least get an MBA before you go, right? To help you out. And I was like, okay, well, again, there's different degrees you can get as a physician. You got to get an MBA. There's the MMM, Master's of Medical Management, right? There's like all these other side kind of degrees. But he was like, get the MBA because it's the strongest degree out of all these other side degrees that you can get that may boost your career. So I was like, okay, fine. That makes sense to me. I get an MBA, and that'll kind of give me an opportunity to do something more, right? Because this wasn't enough. Even though, again, I was a medical director, it's a sexy job. I had a suit on. Everybody's like, oh, he's the guy. I was like, no, this ain't nothing. This ain't enough. So I convinced the university, and that's a whole nother story, to pay for the MBA, and I give my wife a lot of credit for that because she was like, I ain't paying for it. First of all, she ain't had no job anyway, but she was like, I ain't paying for it. It's like, yeah, you ain't paying for it. I got it, right? All right. So anyway, so we ended up talking to the school. We got the MBA paid for. So every other Friday and Saturday, folks, I went to business school while I was working. Okay. So while I was doing the doctor gig, right, I went to got an MBA at the same time. So I got an executive MBA at USC, 22 months, every other Friday and Saturday, did that. That's a whole set of stories in between that, but I'll cut to the chase. So 6 months before we graduated from the MBA program, the MBA program was like, look, because again, there was a lot of mid-level people in there who weren't satisfied with their life. There was very few doctors in there. It was mostly everybody else, right? So they were like, look, you need to kind of start applying to different jobs to get your stuff organized because the degree, just like any degree, is hottest as soon as you get it, right? Your college degree is hot when you get the college degree. It's not hot 5 years later, right? So you got to kind of flip the degree when you get the degree. So 6 months, they were like, this is how you do it. Look, they had the whole thing set up, right? This is how you kind of talk to people. This is how you got to do the executive interview search, all that stuff. So I was following because I was a good student, right? I like school, right? Ain't nothing wrong with that. If you don't like school, don't go be a doctor, okay? So I like school, right? So I was, I didn't get all straight A's. Don't get me wrong, but I was a good student overall, right? And I made friends. All right. So I came back to my job, right? 6 months before I was gonna kind of graduate, and I went to him now. And this is a funny story because it's just an interesting story. I went to him. Don't forget, they paying for the degree now. I went back to my supervisors. I was like, look, I got 6 months left. You know what that means, right? They're like, no, what does that mean? I said, what you think it means? I'm about to quit. What do you think? You didn't read the email? Like, what do you think I'm about to do? Like, I'm about to graduate, man. You think I'm gonna do the same job that I do now and I got another degree? Are you crazy? They're like, oh. I was like, yeah, man. Oh, that's right. I'm about to graduate, man. And once I start looking for a job, Francis, I'm not stopping. Like, why would I do that? Like, think about it, folks. Again, it goes to the risk tolerance. Okay, they were trying to play me. They were like, oh, because this is what they do out here in LA, especially. Okay, because they know like where's you gonna go? Like, because everybody else is cold, or you can go to Florida, right? People don't, most of them don't want to leave California, so they play you on that. Oh, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't got nothing else going on. So I was like, okay, you obviously didn't read my CV. Okay, so I said I'm about to leave, and then again because of relationships, I keep going back to that. Okay, they said, well, we don't want you to leave. Okay. And so we started negotiating and we talked about starting this new program that I'm doing now, this concierge medicine program. Okay. And we could talk about that. But even more importantly than this job, and this is a big job. So I started a new business for the university. It's a big deal, but we'll talk about that. But more importantly, people, is that I met some people in business school and started another business. Okay. A biotech company. Okay. And this is where Amina, Francis, Ume, Riza. This is when we talk about this concept that you may want to write down. And I learned in business school, okay? It's called your default future versus your imagined future, Nathaniel. Your default life versus your imagined life, Loyal, okay? Crystal, Karen, your default future versus your imagined future. Okay, so what does that have to do with anything? So your default future, folks, is who you're going to be if you don't do anything else, anything different. And you know that for most of you all, that's fantastic. You're going to be great, right? You're going to be doctors or whatever you're going to be, right? That's a great life. Like most people want to do that. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But your imagined future, Vincent, is who you can be if you do something different, right? If you go off the beaten trail, if you take a risk, okay, that's your imagined future. Now, here's a trick. The trick is that your default future and your imagined future, they hate each other. Let me say that again. Your default future and your imagined future, they hate each other, right? Because your default future is like that's your original love. That's your first love, right? And the reason that's your first love is because you created that life. That's who you guys. That's who you are. That's what you're gonna do if you don't do anything different. That's great. It's a great life, right? You're gonna be a great doctor. You're gonna serve all the people in the world. You're gonna make a little bit of money, right? And you're gonna feel peace when you go home. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. That's a great default life, as a matter of fact. Okay. So, but your imagined future again is like, why are you messing with him? Why are you messing with that bum? Right? We got bigger things to do, right? You goof around with him or her, and they're not gonna take you where you need to go. So they're in a perpetual state of conflict, and ultimately you can't love them both because they're jealous, right? Every time you start spending time with your imagined future, Loyal, your default future wants to make it better for you, want to make it sexier for you, give you more opportunity. Crystal, oh, here's some more money. Here's another responsibility. Now you could be on a missions committee, right? You can have another side job. Here's a couple extra $100,000. But your imagined future is like, you are a bum goofing around in this trap. You're getting caught up in that trap. So anyhow, I wanted to bring that up because that's kind of where I am now in this conflict between my imagined future and my default future. Okay, the imagined future is I'm a biotech executive. I'm gonna change the world, right? Precision and personalized medicine, 3D printers, AI. I'm gonna deliver that to the world, right? But my default life is like smoking crack, man. Stick with your day job. What are you doing? Right? You're the doctor here at USC. They're about to promote you professor. You got your own clinic with all these other doctors working for you. You got 3 or 4 side jobs. You're making this money. Your wife seems to be happy. Stop tripping. Okay. So that kind of brings us kind of to where we are right now, right? So, again, you can ask me any question again. I'm associate professor of medicine at SC. They like me. They're going to promote me to full professor. Doing all that. That's great. Again, I built a brand new business for the whole university from scratch, right? I got 2 other doctors working for me. That program is going well. We're hiring other doctors. It's a great life, right? I got 3 other jobs that I'm doing on the side, right? So I got the cash flows coming. So what else do I do, right? So I do appeals cases for Medicare, right? So you all can do this stuff too when you become a doctor if you want to. So if any of your friends or family, they're in a nursing home, on the rehab or home health or hospice, they may say you got to get discharged. You can appeal the discharge, right? And it goes to doctors like me to review that case. So that's one side job. The other side job is I'm a physician monitor. So if any of you physicians get in trouble with the state board, they got to be monitored by another doctor, right? That's all paid. Like, it ain't free. So I'm monitoring these doctors all around the United States, right? That's another side job. Right. The other side job is I do like expert witness for these lawyers. Right. Anytime somebody getting sued, especially if it's around doctors, you got to have another doctor involved. Does it make sense? Right. They're doing the right thing. Review the case. Right. That's cash flows coming in too. Right. So at one point I had 6 jobs. Right. I went down to 4. Right. Because, again, I have to kind of focus on my imagined future, which is the biotech company. So I'm doing all that. Right. Trying to really get rid of that default life, which is a career life for most people, to focus on my imagined future. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the point, right, of where we are right now. So I'm gonna stop talking, take a water break while we're talking, and we can go through the questions, or somebody can start talking. But that's kind of where we are right this moment. Okay.
All right, awesome. Your life story is actually really interesting. I think it's the most interesting story I've ever heard before. We have many questions, in fact. Let's start from the first ones from the beginning, from Sai. What was it like navigating the differences between both Chinese and Western culture? Were there different expectations, especially when it came to medicine?
Yeah, so the reason I went to China is because they had I was interested in alternative medicine in general. That was my personality type, right? So again, the Pitzer College program was Chinese medicine, culture, and language, right? So I went there, took all those classes while I was there. Now, obviously, I'm not a Chinese uh, practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine because that's the kind of med school for that too, right? So I didn't have time to do all that. But that was a very, again, meeting people at their lifestyle, I mean, at their life worldview, understanding all that is valuable because, I send people to, I believe in alternative medicine, right? So I send people to these different subspecialties based on kind of where they are in their life. So that was an awesome opportunity. I think the question was navigating the different cultures. Well, again, it was a learning opportunity, right? I didn't know too much about Chinese culture. I definitely didn't speak any language until I got there, but I figured it out, right? Had friends, family, it wasn't all 100% rosy all the time, but it was overall 99% one of the best experience I could have had, right? It serves me even well to this day. Um, so I encourage you all, again, I know the world is a lot going on, but don't get caught in this American lie. Let me tell you that one more time. Don't get caught in what they're telling you here. It's not true. You got to see the world to understand what your role is in it. Okay? Anyway, I'll leave it at that because I know they're recording it and I don't want ICE knocking on my door. Okay? But don't believe the hype. You got to know yourself in order to change the world. You just can't believe what they're telling you here. Okay. Next question.
Yeah, we have a question from Loyal. How much value do you think uh, medical schools place on extracurricular activities, and which part, academic or extracurricular, did you struggle with more?
Oh, you mean to get into med school? Is that what you're talking about? To get into med school, right? Extracurricular activities for the admissions process? Is that what the question is referring to? Yeah, yeah. So, no, so that's a great point. So I'm actually on the admissions committee now at SC. So they just put me on the commissions committee. So I got all the kind of what they're kind of looking for, so to speak, right? And again, it's not just to have good grades. That's what I'm trying to tell you all. Everybody got good grades. Now, obviously, you want to get the best grades as possible to increase the score and all that stuff. So I'm not telling you don't get good grades. That's critical. But again, if everybody got great grades, what separates you? What makes you a better human being? Or what makes you interested? Why people want to be around you? Right? This is so look, when we do these interviews at SC, they're blinded. Like I don't know anything about the candidate. So they've already been screened, right, to kind of get to the interview. So then they just want to know, like, can you like talk to anybody? Like what makes you interested? Right. So again, I'm not asking about the science courses. Right? Asking like what's going on in your life? Like why should you be here? Like how do you handle diversity or adversity? Right? How do you handle change? What makes you a leader? All this other kind of stuff. So my point is, yes, you got to get the grades, right? Because it's a cutoff, right? But again, we're moving into a world, and here's another learning point. All right. So the future, which is now, which is the future, which is now, there are going to be two major job categories in the future. Okay. Two major categories of jobs. Okay. One category of jobs are going to be people who are really good with technology. Right. We're going to pay those people to do all the technology stuff. And you can think about all what that may be, right? They're going to be paid. The other group of people who are going to get paid are people who are really good with human beings, who make humans feel like human beings. You could think about all that kind of stuff, maybe, right? Like it could be entertainers, right? It could be the physicians who are good, but it's people who make a human feel good and make somebody want to pay them. Now, there are going to be some crossover jobs, right? But if you can't fundamentally loyal, do one of these or the other one, it's going to be tough to find a job in the future. And that goes for doctors too. Technology is changing everything, right? So again, people pay me. I don't need your insurance. So I figured that out, right? They pay cash to talk to me. So I'm valuable in that sense. I'm not a better person than you are, but I'm telling you, I found a niche and people will pay for that, right? So that's what I tell the doctors too, right? You got to figure out where you're going in this world and be good at one of those two for sure. And maybe there's some overlap for you. But if you can't do one of those really, really good, it's done. It's tough in the future for you all. Okay. Did I answer that question? I don't know if I went on a tangent. Vincent, you're the ringleader.
Um, I think that was a good answer.
Okay.
Um,
I think Karen had a quick hand up.
Yes, thank you, Kira, for taking that. Hi, Dr. Taylor.
My name is Karan, and it's
Correct.
just so interesting to hear all like sort of like stories and experiences you have with the world and just various aspects of life. And I'm really interested in, I guess, like from all the different jobs that you do and your educational background. I'm really interested in like why you chose to specialize in geriatric medicine. I'm a gerontology major at SC as actually, and I'm re currently working like doing Alzheimer's research at SC after I graduated undergrad. So I'm also on gap years and exploring where I want to be and what I want to do in the future, and actually seeing your like introduction, your background, and hearing your talk. I am really curious what that is like, what that meant to you, and why did you make that decision in your life, and how are you still kind of balancing this role amongst all your other roles
Yeah, great
as a
question.
physician?
Yes, ma'am. So great question. So again, I went into geriatric medicine, Tyler, Isabel, for my grandmother specifically, right? Because she used to go to the doctor, come home, and nobody knew what was going on. She couldn't explain it. Nobody else could explain it. I was like, it must be a communication problem. I could do a better job. So that's kind of how it all started, right? Um, um, what I've learned being a geriatrician now has propelled me to really want to change the world and take more risks because now I understand the aging process. I understand how limited life is. I'm really clear on that. That's what I'm telling you all. And I take these opportunities when people ask me to talk to try to help you all understand that however much time you think you have, you got less than that, right? So you got to do it now. Don't be putting things off. What you waiting on? Okay. Now I'm not saying like you got to do everything sequentially, like high school, college, med school. I didn't say that, but you've got to put things into action, right? Do the action now. Okay. So, and I learned that in geriatric medicine because again, I'm dealing and I do internal medicine adults. So in my concierge program, there's 18 college students all the way up to 100 years old. That's my oldest client. But again, I'm really cognizant on life and the changing stages people go through, right? So, I'm biologically, well, let me back up. I'm chronologically 51, but I'm biologically 33, right? So I feel like, so I kind of act such that I'm still have a little bit of time, right? Because even though I feel like I'm 33, chronologically, most people, at least for most Americans, don't make it past 80 to 90, just in general. Forget all the racial categorizations, right? So then you start putting in all the other stuff, then as a, lifespan decreases. And that's assuming you stay healthy. Think about it. That's an assumption. You may not make it be healthy all the whole time. So I'm really clear on that's why I'm driving myself so hard because I'm running out of time, right? I don't want to be 80, 90 trying to fly around the world doing all this other stuff. I want to do it now. What am I waiting on, right? I don't want to try to, have billions of dollars and then, I can't kind of have fun with it because I can't walk as well or I get dementia or something like that, right? So I got to do it now. So that's what I've learned from geriatric medicine. The other thing I learned from geriatric medicine, and I'll let the other people ask questions, is that uh, I'm really clear and a big communicator in healthcare, right? So, like, and I don't know if that's the geriatric medicine part because, I'm kind of really familiar with aging or just my personality, but that geriatric medicine thing has opened up so many doors for me because there's so many opportunities because the aging population is aging in America, actually globally, except for the continent of Africa, but everybody else is aging really, really rapidly, right? So that gives me a lot of opportunity. That's why I got all these jobs, right? And that's why I was able to start concierge because the older people are paying. That's how it all started. They got the resources. They don't they're willing to spend it. So it has only boosted my career. And that's what they told me at Hopkins is that if you do this fellowship, the problem is not can you get a job, is what job you're going to want to take because you're going to have so many opportunities. And they were right. Okay. So I encourage you to continue on that pathway again, personally, for your own personal knowledge on the aging process. So you know what stages you're in your life and how you can be aware of that. Right. And again, all the opportunities that's going to be available to you because those people will pay for you to make them feel like a human being, like I've been telling you. All right. Next question.
Yeah. Dr. Taylor, can you see the people who raised their hands? If you would prefer, you could just call on them personally.
Oh, I thought you were in charge, man. You know, I like somebody to help me out, brother.
Oh, all right. I could call on them.
I don't want to be
Sai, go
biased.
ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to be biased towards other certain people versus other people.
Right, okay. Sai, you could go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dr. Taylor. I hope you're doing well.
Yes, sir.
My question was that I was wondering, how do you keep your determination steady throughout medicine in your career? Like, aside from your mortality, as you described,
That's a
like
great question.
initially when you began,
Mhm.
was there a way, was it like the end goal that motivated you? Or was it like the work that you do for others that motivated you?
That's a great question. So I'm glad you asked that. So, you know, the thing that drives me is I feel as though my ancestors have get in God, if that's the word people use these days, has given me an opportunity, and I have to make good on that in the time I have left. This is what I'm telling you about this time thing, right? I'm here on a mission. If I don't accomplish this mission, I feel as though I won't be rewarded in the afterlife. Okay. They've sent me down here to figure this out in a short amount of time. And if I don't do it, I'm not going to get the golden egg. And I don't mean the money go. I'm talking the afterlife. But that's a spiritual thing. You see, I'm in a spiritual world. I'm clear on that now. Okay. Humans, let me just say this, because since it's being recorded, humans didn't create the solar system. We didn't put the earth into motion. Don't let them tell you that. Okay, humans didn't create the sun and nuclear fusion on the sun. That's not a human phenomenon. Okay, humans didn't launch the planets into orbit. That's not humans do. We don't do that. Okay, so here's my point. I'm on a spiritual mission. So what motivates me is kind of like, if I don't pull this off, what's going to happen to me? All these things I was able to do. Again, listen, folks. I'm not this golden guy who was like did everything right. Right? There's a lot of stuff I didn't tell you. I've weaved in and out of stuff, but I've been blessed. So that's why I'm doing all this, because I'm being held responsible for all the knowledge and all the opportunities I've had. So I got to keep doing this. I got to keep going, no matter what my wife says, right? No matter what my parents say, right? Because again, that's why I brought this other stuff. Look, your parents, your kids, right? Your loved ones, they might not agree with this journey you're on. Isabella, they want you to do something else, right? Listen, my wife does not want this biotech thing to succeed, but I'm not doing it for her. Okay, I'm doing it for me. And what my ancestors are telling me to do, because I'm going to die, right? And I got to answer to that, not her. She got her own thing she's trying to do. So that's what's driving me, brother. Okay. It's the spiritual debt I owe for having come this far. And to be honest with you, all this shit is easy to me now. And that's so funny about it. I'm not even the smartest guy, but all this stuff is like easy now. So I got to do something more. Does that make sense?
So you're basically saying that you're trying to strive for more, do for more, and take more chances and risks,
Yeah,
depending on your time here on Earth.
but that's done for spiritual purposes, man. Okay, because my ancestors they are imploring me to do more because I owe them being here. Okay, that's why I'm doing this. All right, next question.
Um, Jericho, you could go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, Dr. Taylor, I just want to say your story is really inspiring. As a young Black male that's trying to pursue a career in medicine, oftentimes it's very challenging to stay motivated and, just finding other people to look up to in the field. So I really appreciate your time sharing your story. But I wanted to ask, as a young Black male coming up in the field of medicine, how did you go about finding mentorship and support and encouragement? Because I know at your time it was definitely difficult to find mentorship, and it's only gotten increasingly harder. So I just wanted to ask you how you went about that process.
Yeah, so again, it's I went to Morehouse undergrad, right? So it was nothing but kind of Black guys trying to do stuff, right? So that helped a lot, right? So again, obviously those programs, those kind of schools aren't for everybody, but it was again that's why I brought the Rodney King thing. That's where I was at that time in my life, right? I needed that environment, and that's okay, man. Don't let anybody fool you. So again, but it goes really back to, a wanting to do it, right? You got to put it into your mind. This is for everybody, right? How we manifest as humans, we first think about it, right? Right. Then you come up with a plan and then you manifest the plan, right? So thinking about this is what you want to do, and then you go find these people, right? So they're all around. And listen, all my mentors actually, all of them aren't African people, right? Like I didn't get to this whole, there's hardly any black people at SC. So I had other people helping me, right? Because, again, it's all love. Let me tell you that, number one, it's all love with everybody. Okay. So I was just out asking people who wanted to help me. And that's what you got to find, people who like you. They out there, bro. Okay. They're all out there. Okay. And it ain't got to be this ethnicity versus this. They're out there. You just got to want to find them. And again, if somebody says no, you should thank them for that, because obviously you're not the right person. Right. So again, going through, there's a lot of different groups. There's religious groups, there's medical school groups, there's, all these organizations. But you got to just not be afraid to ask people. Okay. And obviously, I'm here, and I know other people, but the first step is to ask. Well, the first step is to manifest in your mind, then ask. Okay. Next question.
Marie, you could go ahead.
Hi, hello, Dr. Taylor.
Hey.
My name is Mara Christ, but I often go by MC.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm currently logging in from Paris, France. I'm an international
Okay.
student. So it's really refreshing to hear your global perspective on medicine. But my question is more on those calculated risks you talked about earlier. So what I want to pursue is medicine. That has always been the goal. But through this process and having gone to undergrad, uh, through the journey of undergraduate, I have realized that I wanted to do more things. So, for example, I've gotten some experiences working in lab during my undergrad years, and so that made me realize that I didn't just want to, just do medicine. I want to be able to reach out to future patients, but I also want to be in a lab and working maybe in a biotech company, which is an experience I've had for a little while. Um, and so right now I graduated and I'm applying to medical school, but I've also had this opportunity to um, uh, go to a master's program at USC, actually, global medicine, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So I would like to have your advice on how I can assert my conviction to do more than what I set myself to do before, which was just that straight path of undergrad and then med school. Um, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you kind of already have taken the step, right? You're already in the program for the gerontology. I mean, not for the gerontology, for the global program at SC, right? You're already in that.
Right.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's a first step. Right? You've already realized and taken that risk. Um, I think again, you know, kind of just making sure that some of the risks you take, and let me back up. Sometimes it's hard to put the dots together looking forward. I think this is a Steve Jobs thing, right? It's easier looking back, right? And then you easier put the dots together. But I think that again, being aware and taking calculated risk. But if you really want to be a physician, as you take these kind of serendipitous route, you always connect with this your true north, right? So meeting people along the way, trying to be strategic about who you meet, who can place you at the medical school or in a medical school and help you get there. I think just kind of keeping that in the back of your mind as you kind of go through that. And again, I keep bringing up this friends thing. Again, I'm not saying everybody should be your best friend, but it's just again, you need to have contacts. It's easier to negotiate life, especially in America. Okay, with contacts. Okay, so I think you're on the right path. Okay, and we're willing to help you in any way we can. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next question.
Francis, go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Taylor. It's been amazing to listen to you. I don't think I've laughed so much during an educational thing ever in my life, and I've loved it so much. I also want to very quickly say that a few years after you've done your years in China, that is still happening. I spent 2 years in India, and I got the question so much time, like, "Oh, so you're from the U.S., but like, where are you really from?" All the time. But basically, my question is, I'm looking kind of like at your career, and it seems like some of the things that you've been able to do as far as like medical director or being the, you know, lab lead and things like that happen pretty quickly. And I feel like usually people's timelines are much longer than that. Like to get to medical director for one is like 15 years, 20 years. So I'm just wondering, what qualities do you have yourself, or kind of what experiences, or do you think people really just liked you that led you to kind of, I think, get to places very quickly that I don't think always happen for people in medicine?
Sure. And I didn't want to be flippant about people like me, because actually a lot of these people don't like me. Okay. But that's okay, because I like myself. Okay. So I want that to be really clear. Again, doing through all this travel, again, I think I said that I became clear on who I was, which is most important. So they can't throw the wool and kind of trick me by saying you ain't this, you ain't that, right? Your beard's to this, you're this to that, your skin's to this, to that. I reject all that. So they have to respect me on that. And again, I got the spiritual thing. So when I talk to them, I got all my ancestors talking to them too, right? They don't even know it, but that's exactly what's happening to them. I got multiple people talking to them. They just think it's me. So, but the point is, a part of it is, I think that because I was driven and I took those early risks, that kind of separated me from a lot of my classmates. Okay. Like I said, because we all did the undergrad thing, right? Most of them, most of the doctors, and most of you all too. And there's nothing wrong with it. You're going to go straight through. And that's what most people do, right? And that's perfectly fine. But because I didn't do that, that accelerated me on a self-development strategy, right? I became more self-aware, right? By doing those times overseas, right? So then when I did talk to the people, I had a different story to tell them, right? And then I had a different motivation. So things started to go faster, I think, for me. But to me, it's gone slow. But to other people, it's gone fast. Like, again, I have a whole career job that I'm trying to get rid of. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" Right? You're crazy. You're trying to get rid of your default life. It is great, right? So again, I told you, in order for me to get that medical director job, I had to go to these people and tell them that I want to get divorced, right? It wasn't like, again, but I was a risk taker. And that's what you had to build up, calculated risk. How much risk are you willing to take to get the outcome you're looking for? And most people don't want to take no risk. Now, obviously, you're doctors, you're taking a lot of risk, but it's still a conservative pathway. So once most people become doctors, they don't want to mess up that little good thing for them, right? They don't want to mess that up. They got the money flows coming in, they got a little bit of clout. They don't want to mess that good thing up. And that's why doctors are kind of caught up in this conservatism. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's how most doctors are, right? But because I didn't do that, right? Because I was an international, because I moved around, remember I brought that up. I lived in Boston, Salem, Massachusetts, right? Then I went to the East Coast. All that allowed me to kind of, again, figure out who I was, became more confident and take more risk, calculated risk. And the big accelerator, the catalyst was the China trip, learning another language. Again, I had to be China, but that was a big deal. Then the Spain thing, learning another language, right? Out of my comfort zone, right? So when I did come back and talking to people, I'm just talking to them a little differently now, right? And that kind of comes through, not because I'm a great person, just because this is my life opportunities, my life experience. And it was a great payoff. Those things paid off 10 times, and it's still paying off. Okay. And they can't take that from me. Right. But people were hating on me too. Like, that's how people are. They want to hate on you. And that's okay. But they can't stop you. Just like they can't stop you all. Okay. Next question.
Rema, go ahead.
Hello, doctor. My question is, you mentioned experiencing burnout.
Yes.
Although it was further in your career, is there any advice or insight you can provide to medical students who might struggle with something similar?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So listen, since you brought that up, when I was in med school, one of my best medical school buddies, like a group of us, right? First of all these people are smarter than me. Like I'm like the low end smart people for my crew, right? So one guy was like real genius, right? And my buddies in med school, they used to debate like which ones were more powerful, the hormones or the neurotransmitters. This is the kind of stuff we were talking about, right? One guy was like, the neurotransmitters are more important. They're more powerful. And the other guy was like, no, it's the hormones. They're more powerful. So long story short, I'm not going to tell you all the details, but the guy committed suicide. One of them in med school. Okay, first year. All right. So that was a big deal, right? So that was, so I had a loss of a good friend, study partner, friend in med school. And then here as a faculty member, and they don't talk about it a lot, but we've had in USC faculty, we've had 2 faculty members commit suicide in the daytime. It's doing right after work. One in the middle of the day, one right after you finish rounds. Jumped off the building. Okay, so both of them jumped off the building, not at the same time, 2 different times, right? So my point is, there's a lot going on in healthcare. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so here's my advice to you all. You've got to have some type of stress reduction strategy. So what I tell everybody, and thank you for bringing this up, okay, is that you cannot leave your physical health, your nutrition, and your mental health to chance. I want to say that again. You cannot leave your physical health, your nutrition, and your mental health to chance. So you've got to have some type of mental health strategy. It's too difficult out here. It's too much going on, right? And this is many years ago. Now it's even more because you got all this input coming in from these devices, right? And then you got all these people acting up in the world, right? So it's a whole lot going on. So I'm telling you, Loyal, I'm telling you, Riza, Nathaniel, all of y'all, Vincent, okay, Juan, you've got to have some type of Luca, right? Darlington, you've got to have, Isabella, some Marie, stress reduction strategy. Kira, whatever it is. Now, obviously, I don't want you kind of, smoking yourself out to death, drink yourself to death. That's not what I'm talking about. But you need to have some type of way to de-stress and declutter your mind, or else it's too much to get through. It's just too much going on. Okay, now all the medical schools are talking about it now. How do we keep these students mentally sane? Okay, these are people I know. What all these other, all of them are having suicides, from medical school level to residents to full-fledged doctors. Listen, people, the department chair of internal medicine jumped off the building at SC. They don't want to talk about that. Did you hear what I said? He was a department chair, like acting. Okay, he finished clinic, did his notes, and then jumped off the building. I'm trying to, so there's a lot going on. Okay, so don't leave it to chance. Figure that out. If you need help, get help. Right? Have somebody to talk to. Do something. I don't know what it is, but you've got to have something that allows you to de-stress, because you can't get through this. Okay, it's just too much. No matter what they tell you. Okay, because you don't want to internalize that, and then you're beating up your family, right? Then you got other problems. So thank you for asking that question. And I think that's a critical thing, that you do not leave your mental health, your physical activity, and your nutrition to chance. Okay. And I throw the spiritual thing in there too, because maybe you fall back into the spiritual thing to guide you out of this drama. Okay. Next question.
Okay. Just before we continue, we want to be mindful of your time, Dr. Taylor. So, in this session, we probably have time for 1 to 2 more questions. Kelsey, you could go ahead and ask your question. And we apologize to anyone here whose question we missed, because we had a lot of questions asked.
Thanks, Vincent. I'll try to make it a good one. Dr. Taylor, thanks for being here and for sharing your story. I agree with Francis. I've probably not smiled as much for an educational video as I have with this one. But on the topic of injustice and I guess a state of kind of general chaos in the country right now, that actually almost turned me away from medicine. But ironically, it's invigorated me to return to it full force. So I'm very steadfast on my goal to become a physician. I have been for a long time, but this kind of sealed the deal. I recognize in my day-to-day life that some qualities feel like they've been lost, like, basic morality, ethics, care for one another. Is there any quality that you would implore incoming medical professionals to, kind of provide in the community or try to bring back something that you've seen lost?
Well, that brings up a good point. So, again, I told you I'm on the admissions committee. So they got these categories like what they want us to look for in medical students, right? So I'm gonna read them to you, right? Commitment to learning and growth, right? Cultural awareness, cultural humility, empathy, compassion, ethical responsibility to self and others, interpersonal skills, oral communication, reliability and adaptability, service orientation, teamwork and collaboration. Okay, so that's what the medical students are supposed to be looking for in doctors, right? All those things that you kind of already know. But and I'm sure you all have all that, but I still think, since this is such a long journey, right? Again, first of all, it's an honor to serve people. You got to figure that out. Like these people are putting their lives in your hand. That's a big deal, right? And sometimes you're gonna make a mistake. It's like a big deal, right? People take it for granted, right? You know, so so I still go back because I've been through the training, right? I've helped other people get through the training, and I'm still helping people. And I still goes back, I think, to what that other student had about the stress, because and I think you've really got to figure out who you are, like, and that's a process, right? Everybody doesn't have the same opportunity to kind of for that self maturity, but the sooner you can have some type of true north or some self maturity reason strategy to yourself, why are you doing this, like what's important to you, then I think it's easier to help other people. One of the things that happened as a resident, and I still remember this to this day, is that, back when I was going to residency, like we had like overnight call. Like they don't like do that. These men just anyway, everything's on shift work. Back then, we come in the morning and we leave when we were on call, like the next day at like noon. So we'd be up all the time. And one of the things, because again, I was already a couple years removed from everybody else, like I know I'm not gonna be staying up 36 hours. I just can't, I gotta take a nap, man. I'm tired, bro. You know what I'm saying? So what I used to do is as soon as the call started, I would go to the call room and take a nap. Like everybody else goofing around. Like I'm taking a nap and then I'll wake up, then I have more energy. So my point is, what they used to tell us in residency is take care of yourself first. You can't help the world if you've fallen apart. It's too hard. It's too stressful. Like these people got big problems, right? And then you coming in, like, and you falling apart, and you gonna help somebody else? It's too difficult, right? It's too hard to do that. It's just draining. And again, if you fall off and you can't get it together, then how you gonna help everybody else? Then we losing you, right? So I think really loving yourself, and I think people take that for granted, right? You're busy loving everybody else, but do you really love yourself, right? When it gets tough, can you get back up? Can you look in the mirror and say, I love you, right? And I'm going to try again. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it better the next time. But if you don't really truly love yourself, and it's hard to love yourself if you don't know who you are, right? Then that's why I think doctors are falling off the edge, right? Because we don't really love ourselves. So we have to face someone acting like we care about other people. You don't really fucking care about these people. You don't care about yourself, right? And I don't mean a selfish care, but again, again, if you don't treat yourself semi well, you can't treat these other people. Then it's false, right? If you putting poison into your body and try to help to these other people don't do that, then it don't work that well, right? So I think, and again, if you highly stressed because you got all these mental health breakdowns, which is normal, but if you don't kind of try to regulate that, then how are you gonna help the other person who's falling apart? Okay. So again, all those other things I said, all those things you already know, caring and all that, but I really encourage you all to try to find out who you are. And then for me, it was all that travel I did, right? And still trying to put it together, right? But that gave me an opportunity to like reflect, right? Especially away from America when they're trying to tell me I was this and I wasn't really that, right? I was something else. So that was really important. Okay, Kesley. So I mean, I'm happy to take it offline, but I think again, really caring about yourselves, folks, because it's a long journey, right? You got to exercise. You got to put these healthy things in your body, right? I got all these doctors who are in my concierge program, right? And a lot of them didn't take care of themselves when they were young because they were busy taking care of everybody else. And again, that's what I'm saying. You're going to go to the afterlife. Everybody's going to love you, right? But you don't. I mean, it didn't have to be that way, right? You could you again. You just want to spend some time with yourself, so you can enjoy your journey. It goes back to the geriatric point, right? From Quran, right? I understand how short life is, right? You've got to enjoy and love yourself along the journey, right? Because the things you like now, you may not like in the future. So if you're waiting for the future for everything, by the time you get there, you might even like to do that no more. But you didn't live in the moment. Okay. Hope that answers your question. Next question.
Okay, I think this is gonna be the very last question, unless anyone else has a question. Okay, this was from someone who put this in chat before. What were the most common medical conditions you treated in correctional facilities, and how did they differ from traditional outpatient populations?
Listen. So again, I was in a jail, not the prison. So again, I had a chronic care clinic in the jail. So, they had chronic care problems like hypertension, right? Obesity, all, all those kind of issues, right? Um, you know, I think the thing so let me tell you one story that's really stood out about two stories. One, and they're really short because I know everybody's got to go. So one story is, so let me just tell you, in jail, okay, again, I don't know about prison, but in jail, listen, you just can't like wake up one day and say, I'm gonna see the doctor. maybe that's what I used to think too. Like you're in jail, like you got a cold, you're gonna like go see the doctor, right? No, it don't work like that. Okay. So in order to kind of see the doctor, number one, is that, I think they had some system of like some tickets that I think you had to pay, right? And, some people got like commissaries and stuff like that. But the thing is, the correctional officers have to let you out the cell, okay, to kind of get down to get permission to see me. Don't forget these people are they locked up, right? It ain't like free roam. So if the correctional officers don't want you to leave, you ain't leaving. So listen, I had this one guy coming to the clinic, right? I'm the new guy, right? The Dr. Kanye, right? This dude comes to he finally makes it to see me, right? Again, I didn't know all the drama behind how you can get in and get out at that point. I'm just showing up, right? And I'm locked in too now. Again, I'm locked in the jail. Now, I'm not talking about the front door of the jail. I'm talking about there's multiple barriers in the jail. They got doors that close. Like I'm deep in the jail. So the guy comes to the clinic and he's like bleeding and stuff. I'm like, okay, like, when did this happen? I said, did this just happen, man? Like, what's going on? He was like, no, man, this happened last week. I said, last week? It's like, yeah, they wouldn't let me out. They wouldn't let me get to you. So I've been in there bleeding the whole time. So that's what I was like, man, this ain't no joke in here, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot going on, right? Then another time, it's like, so allow me to back up. When I first started working at the jail, I should have known I was in for a roller coaster because the first day of when I first showed up, the sun was setting. This is in Baltimore. I don't know if y'all been to Baltimore. The sun was setting. So it was like dusk. And I parked right in front of the jail, right? And then I'm looking at the jail because you can see it in the distance. And there is a box, like a bag on a rope being hauled up the side of the jail. I know y'all like, this dude's making this up. I'm not making this up. They were hauling contraband in, okay, from the side of the jail on a rope. So that somebody was inside the jail. There was a bag on the outside, and they were rolling. I was like, maybe I'm crazy. Like, am I like hallucinating? So then I called my boy, like, listen, man, I just want to like tell somebody this so people think I'm making this up. So I knew I was in for something because they were, and then the bag got stuck on the window. They were like trying to jerk it again. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. This is first day. All right. So the other story was, is about it's very little rehab in the jail. Like I thought, I don't know what I thought. I thought, have libraries and all that stuff, but again, you can have your opinion on why people are in jail, and that's another thing. But it was just a nasty place to be in. It was just terrible, man. So the point was this: was that I found out about the underground system of corruption in the jails, and you would think, well, the common story is that the prisoners are bringing the stuff in, right? But that's not true. They're locked up, okay? It's the correctional officers, okay? So everybody's in on this corruption in the jail, right? So I had people coming in with cell phones in the clinic talking about, can you charge my phone up? I was like, what you mean, man? You ain't supposed to have no phone in the jail. They're like, yo, G, you don't even know what's going on here, man. Everybody's in on it. How you think I got a phone? I got it from officers. So they told me all the layers of corruption, and then this is the jail, not the prison. So again, my whole world was changed. So my point is, the problems in the jail, yes, there was a lot of chronic problems. And again, the access is limited. They don't want people going out to the regular hospitals because maybe they want to launch like a breakout, or they're just trying to get out of jail. So they're making up symptoms. All that stuff is going on, right? They don't stock all the regular drugs in the jail. It's a jail. Like, I'm saying, you shouldn't be in jail, so to speak, right? So you ain't getting all this regular stuff. They're not letting you out when you want to get out when you're really sick, right? And the corruption in the jail, it's not just the prisoners, okay? It's these other people, correctional officers, in on it, and you won't know that till you work there, right? So that was a mind-blowing experience, right? Those guys didn't know how many continents they were. I was trying to do some like educational piece when they come to the office. I was trying to educate them because I didn't know what was going on, and they didn't know nothing. It was just disheartening, right? They didn't know the different oceans, like what are the oceans on Earth? They didn't know the different oceans. I was like, man. So it was just really heartbreaking. So again, that made me want to do better. And again, I'm not here talking about who's in jail. Why I didn't ask them why they're in jail now. I didn't want to get too deep, right? Because I felt vulnerable, right? Don't forget, I was in jail. It was no correctional officer in the clinic with me. I mean, not in my office in the clinic. I was alone. Like, closed the door, there's prisoners right on me. Like, what's up? I was like, I better not say nothing too crazy, right? I don't want to get jacked up in the jail alone. But it was an awesome opportunity, and there's opportunities for you on correctional medicine. They need good doctors. Okay, so that's my spiel for that. I mean, I'll take one more question if you have one. If not, it's up to you all. But I'm already in trouble with my wife anyway, so who cares?
Go on. Um,
Hey, Dr. Taylor, thank you very much for sharing. I just want to touch on something you talked about, and I'm kind of curious about it, even though it may not help your case now, so to speak. So, knowing everything you know now as an AdCom, what would you do differently to kind of give yourself a better shot at like finessing or maybe leveraging the things you had that made you different in order to get into medical school?
Yeah. So here's the thing, folks. Because again, I didn't do anything. I'm not a magic person, right? Like I said, I made mistakes, and I didn't talk about those, right? But to your point, is that I probably wouldn't do anything differently because I needed to go through that to get here. I'm okay with this thing right now. You see what I'm saying? Now, obviously, maybe I would have, been more nice to this person, right? Not said anything bad to that person, right? But in terms of the fundamental things I did, like I wouldn't try to go back and change my grades because the grades were rolled out and that allowed me to kind of do the other things, right? So, for example, if I would have been straight A's or I went back to Nathaniel and got better grades, then I probably wouldn't have went to China because that allowed me to kind of take some risk, so I wouldn't change my undergrad, but because I don't like to live life in retrospect, which is what I'm telling you all. Okay, you really want to drive this thing hard as you can while you can, and and have a spiritual component to yourself, so you won't live life regret. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be flippant, Darlington. I'm just saying that the mistakes I made are important to get me where I am to be able to talk to you like this, right? If I go and undo those, I'm not the same person. And I'm comfortable where I am. I'm comfortable uh, with this, the dichotomy with the default future versus the imagined future, right? I'm okay with that, right? So I wouldn't, again, other than some interpersonal things of being, nicer to this person or not doing that, not yelling at my mom or dad, but, when they were trying to help me and stupid stuff like that, that's just immaturity. But fundamentally, with my grades, the major I took, I wouldn't change that, man, because that's giving me this perspective, right? Um, you know, that's kind of how I see it right now. Again, looking back, what I'm saying, connecting the dots back, because again, this pathway wouldn't have been this way if I'd have been the perfect person. You see? So I mean, that's kind of my answer to that, man. I mean, I don't know if that was good enough for you, but that's just how I feel right now. Again, I wouldn't change any of the bad things I did, at least academically, right? I mean, even the stuff I've done to get to these jobs right here, I had to do certain things, right? And those may not have been the right things, but I'm not a big fan of living in regret, right? And maybe that's my geriatric training. I don't want to live life in regret. I don't want you regretting things. So you should go ahead and do it, right? And take that risk, okay? Be kind to people. I think that's important. But you're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. But you just don't want to live life in regret. You don't want to be shoulda, coulda, but I didn't. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, did, right? So that's some of the things I think about. Um, I don't know if that's a good answer for you or not. I mean, so I'm okay where I am right now with all the bad things I've done too. Those were important to happen, important milestones in my life, right? And I don't want to go back and change those because then I wouldn't where I am right now. And this is a good inflection point for me. Again, like I said, I'm in middle life to how you want to choose that word, right? Maybe I've got 20 years left of good kind of living, but I really only got 10 years to make this happen, right? Because once you get 60, 70, people push you around. You're scared to fall, right? You don't want to walk down the street because somebody may bump you and you may trip. Come on now, this is how it works. What else?
Dr. Taylor?
Yes.
Sorry for not raising my hand, but I wanted to ask about the futures again.
About the what?
The futures you mentioned?
You talk about the default future versus your imagined future. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Could you
Yeah.
go more in depth than that if you could have time?
Yeah. So I'll explain. I don't know if you heard it initially. So again, I learned this in business school. Your default life versus your imagined life. Your default future versus your imagined future. Okay. Again, your default future team, folks, Luca, is who you're gonna be if you don't do anything different. Okay. And for you all, you're gonna be stars. So that's a great life. Okay. Your default life when y'all become a physician is a great life. Okay. Don't hear anything other than that. Okay. But your imagined life, your imagined future is who you could be if you do something different. Okay. Not only different from being a doctor, but after you become the doctor thing, there's more to you than maybe just your career pathway, right? Or what specialty you go into, right? Or how you relate to the world. And again, your default future loves you. It loves you a whole lot, okay? Because you created that life, right? Of course it loves you. You created it. It loves you like no other, okay? And it's jealous. It don't want you to have nobody else, okay? But then again, your imagined future, again, this is all as you go through life. Again, right now you're focused on getting to med school. You can't think of nothing else. Again, I used to be you all. And that's the beauty of it. I'm all you all, the men and the women. Okay? We're all together, right? We just look differently with the same energy. Okay? So all I was thinking about at your age is getting to med school. I didn't know this imagined future, default future then. I didn't know none of that when I was your age. Okay? I didn't learn that till later on in life. So your default future is great, people. Go for it. But once you get it, it may be some other stuff. Now, let me talk about the bell-shaped curve and how that relates to the default future and imagined future. Again, this bell-shaped curve, everybody within 2 standard deviations of the bell-shaped curve is basically doing the same thing, just a little bit of deviation from the middle. Yeah, kind of all doing the same thing. You're gonna be a doctor, right? You're gonna do this specialty, go that specialty. You're gonna go to residency. You're gonna get some cash. You're gonna do great, right? But then the tails of those the 2.5% on the tail, those are the people that are really moving the needle, for good or for worse, right? The people on the tail, the 2.55% of the people, they're crazy. Like they wild, right? They're either doing wild things for good or wild things for bad, in a nutshell. Okay. So those, once you get on that side of that 2.5%, that's when you enter your imagined life. Because what you could be if you want to do something more than what you're doing in your default life. Okay. And like I said, the way you know you're getting closer to your imagined future, and again, I want you all to stick to your default future right now because this is really important. If you want to get into med school, be a doctor, you got to go through that. And we could talk about the different careers in medicine because you actually don't even have to practice medicine as a medical student. You can be a consultant. Okay, there's a whole lot of jobs out here that don't require you to see people as long as you get your medical degree, right? So there's a whole spectrum because you're smart. People need smart people to do work these days, right? So, but my point is that your imagined future is who you could be if you do something different, right? Oh, I was going to say is that your default future, the way you know you're getting closer to your imagined future, Riza, is that your default future starts to make life better for you, right? Like I said, they want to give you more money, get job, get a promotion, right? They want to give you extra salary, like, and they want to give you all these academic promotions. It's a trap. Again, your imagined future is saying, what are you doing? Why are you messing with him? Why are you messing with her when you're supposed to be a me over here? Okay, doing something more. And that's a conflict that you all may have in the future. Okay, or maybe some of you all are going through it now. Okay, but those again, those are quote unquote rich people problems, right? You know, most people are kind of just trying to get up and make sense of their life. Okay, so these are self problems I've kind of put on myself. Okay, which is part of my spiritual journey, right? I don't have to kind of one of these biotech thing. What are you doing? That's like extra stuff, right? But that's what I'm saying. I'm driven, and some of you all may be driven to do more that after you become a physician. And we need physician leaders, right? We need smart people like you all to change the world, right? And here's the analogy I like to use. It's like a waterfall. That's the water's coming off the waterfall going to the ground. And on the ground, it starts to flood. Okay. So the majority of doctors are down here with the people in the flood, pulling people out the water. It's hard being a doctor, no matter what specialty you go to. You're pulling people out the water, right? People sick, you're going to clinic all the day, seeing 40 people, you're in the operating room and putting people to sleep, taking care of kids all day long, right? Yeah, you get some money, but you're working hard. Don't let them fool you. It's hard work, okay? You may love it, but it's hard work. But here's the point. Some of you all got to go upstream to the top of the waterfall and stop the water from falling down. Right? That's a different type of work. Right? Nathaniel, it's a different type of work, Ume, from pulling people out of the flooded water than going to the top and stopping the water. Okay? So some of you all got to go to the top where the decisions are made to change the world, to keep the water from flooding the land and pulling these people out of the water all day long. It's too much. Okay? So that's kind of, the default future versus imagined future, right? So your default future loves you, right? It's going to make life work. It's going to seduce you into staying with it by giving you more. But your imagined future is going to be like, you're an idiot. You keep messing with this dude, and you know he ain't no good for you. You keep messing with this female, and she ain't no good for you. You're supposed to be over here in your imagined life. Okay? So at some point, it becomes a schism. You got to choose one. You can't love them both. I mean, you can love them both, but you can't serve them both. Okay? Because they're jealous. So that's the default future versus your imagined future. Okay? Again, like I said, I'm in the middle of that right now. My job loves me, but I'm trying to get rid of it. I'm trying to do something else. Okay? But like I said, my family don't want me to change their life because they benefiting from the default life. That pays the bills, right? The default future is a startup. It ain't no money. It's just an imagined life I can have, right? But it wants all the attention too. Like, why are you talking to these kids? You're supposed to be doing some biotech stuff, G, right? Why are you on the missions committee? That's a waste of time. Focus on the investors. Get the money. Okay? So it's no balance. That's what I want to end with this. Again, folks, I want you all to focus, go to med school. These are doctor problems I'm talking about. Y'all got pre-medical school problems. And that's a lot too. I get it. Okay. Don't let me poo-poo it. I used to be there. Okay. But I got doctor problems now. Okay. So, again, take care of your health. It's a long journey, right? You got to, again, put those healthy things, healthy people, healthy surroundings. You got to have a stress reduction strategy. And some of you all are risk takers. I mean, all y'all are smart. I mean, most doctors are smart. That's just, you just got to go through the stuff. That's not a smart thing. Okay. It's about risk. Okay. And I learned a lot about risk in business school. Okay. I didn't really talk about the business school part. The take home points from business school is how money moves through time. Okay. I learned about that. How do you categorize money? What does that mean? How do you what is the future value of money? Moving money through time. That was an important concept. And the last concept I learned is about risk. What is risk worth? Right? How much risk are you willing to take? What does risk mean? Right? You're a doctor. It's a risky business, but how does that translate into cash flows? Right? Again, more risk, more reward. But how much risk are you personally willing to take? Okay. So like I said, I'm willing to talk, we could talk offline about anything. But those are kind of summarizing some of the things I wanted to bring out to you all. I hope that was useful.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. I think I can speak for all of us saying that we loved your talk so much. Um, so now I'm just gonna present the wrap-up slides.
And before I go, I want to say thanks for the young lady who was tracking me down to do this. You're on the right track. Okay. Thank you. All right. I don't know where she is. But she tracked me down. I was like, what is this? Like, I was like, but thank you. Keep it up. And I guess I'll go. Am I supposed to go now or what?
You can stay for the wrap-up slides. It's
Okay,
just gonna
that's
be
fine.
really
Okay,
quick.
okay. I'll mute myself.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all. I'm just having technical difficulties right now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, sorry, y'all. Can you see my screen?
No, we can only see like half of that.
Oh no. Um, Okay. Okay, I don't know how to get to it in full screen, but anyways, let's wrap up. So, what was your guys' favorite moment or example from today's session? Just like think about this and maybe write some notes. It's really helpful for each shadowing session to just write some notes so you can have some records and also know what you talked about and thought about in the session. So, these three questions are some guiding questions that may help you. Like, what's one idea from today you are most excited to explore next? And what's one key takeaway or idea that stood out to you most? Okay. You could also share your certificate. After this, you could take a quiz to get a shadowing certificate, and you could share that on LinkedIn. If you add us, we'll repost you and stuff. If you're interested in being part of pre-health shadowing, you could register on our website to volunteer. Again, our organization is 100% volunteer run. So if you would like to help us continue having these lessons, you could sign up. And you could donate using this QR code too. And if you missed part of the session, don't worry because we upload all our sessions on YouTube. And we also upload it to the website. So you can access it searching up this at in YouTube or through our website. We have sessions almost every single week, so you can catch that uh, on our website or if you sign up for our email list as well. So again, thank you all so much for coming to Free of Shadowing. If you have any last questions, um, you can ask. But this session did run over a little bit, but I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did.